Hey everyone, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. My name is Justin, aka the softest of pillows, and this is
This is Derek or Bird That Steals.
I feel like it's been a long time since we talked.
yeah, in reality, we
2
recorded
days.
on Monday. It's Wednesday now, though this episode may not drop till next week, I suppose.
That is true. That is true. But I don't know. I mean, I guess to answer your question as I interrupted, um I guess I'm good. As good as I could be in the last 2 days. Uh you know, not really much new to add on. It's been pretty boring. Work is starting to pick up a little bit, but it's just because office staff and some people are coming back into the school, so they have technology issues, which is good, which is fine. I mean, I had a couple of computers that I repaired today, so
Job
yeah,
security.
yeah, yeah. You like lugged up this huge fucking probably 60-pound printer that had just been sitting in some office for the last 5 years, just not even working. Uh, so that was fun.
Sweet.
Yeah, what about you, man? What's new the last 2 days?
Not much. My so we were talking before recording here a little bit, and I told you I'd tell you. But you noticed we had another YouTube subscriber, and I said, "Oh, that was me," and that's because at work today, my boss asked if I would stay late to load a truck, and I said, "Well, I've got a podcast episode to record tonight." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a podcast. What do you have a podcast on?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a book series me and my buddy are reading." He's like, "Oh, well, what book series?" I'm like, "Oh, Malzahn," and he knew what it was. It really surprised me.
Oh.
So, James Baker, when you listen to this at some point, I'm telling the truth, I'm recording on August 3rd. Um, so he so I subscribed to our YouTube channel so I could send him a link to it, and so he's gonna check it out. And we were talking for a few minutes. So he's a big like fantasy book nerd and stuff too. So um, didn't know that about him. So that's kind of cool.
That is cool. Well, I mean, hopefully we inspire him to reread the series and he can follow along with our shenanigans.
Yeah, he said he was wanting to reread it. So he's like, I don't. It sounded like he didn't remember much, but he's like, "Oh, it's that book series with the fucking crazy army and stuff." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, kind of, but we don't really know a lot yet because we've never read it."
Yeah, did you tell him no spoilers?
Yeah, yeah. So don't tell me anything.
He's like la 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 la.
Yeah. So yeah, he's read it and he's read the Wheel of Time and some other stuff. So yeah, it was kind of surprising, but in a good
That's
way.
awesome. That is awesome. We have another milestone to celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm gonna say?
I'll let you say it.
Oh, okay. Hey, it is our 20th motherfucking episode. 20.
Hell
20.
yes. 20.
Woo!
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We've been 20 episodes. It's I mean, well, what we started like Marchish.
March 3rd, I feel like, is the first episode.
Oh,
It
well,
when
holy
it was
shit! Then that's
published.
5 months exactly.
Uh-huh. Yep. Probably yeah, about 6 months a book. But it's weird because like it feels long, but at the same time, like it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Yep,
But yeah, I mean, lots of good moments.
for sure. It's been fun.
It has been. It's been a blast. Um, and again, the only real information that I ever hear is that either people struggling with the book that are like asking for help on how they should read it, and in a lot of those posts, I see everybody rave about Dead House Gate. So I can only imagine what's in store, and like you mentioned a couple of times in the last few episodes, I'm very anxious to keep going, but like at the same time, I still want to like, do our due diligence and make sure we wrap up the book. So,
Yeah. I guess kind of on that note, maybe it's not going to sound like it relates. Well, yeah, we'll go this way. I'm just kind of winging it. So we've yeah, you and I have talked. I think when we finish this book, we were going to have a couple guests on, and we both talked to them, so that'll be coming up. Um, but they won't be the first guest that we have on the show. Probably next week sometime. We will do a little collaboration with an Aliens podcast for the Predator movie called Prey coming out this Friday. So that should be pretty cool. Podcast is called Xenomorphing, so check them out. I've been listening to them, and they got like I think 30ish episodes or so, and I'm 6 or 7 in. I'm on their Alien Covenant episode right now.
ooh,
So
I might have to listen to that.
yeah, these first ones they've just gone through each of the movies. So I'm up to Covenant. Man, there's a few guys on there. So I don't know if it'll just be Dave, the host, or if we'll have the rest of his crew with us. But looking forward to it, doing something definitely kind of outside of our, I guess, what you would probably think our normal scope would be of reading a book. But it's good to branch out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of a brief pause, so to speak.
Right.
But yeah, I guess I think the one last thing before I get started is I just want to briefly take a moment to thank Livia, the Malazan potato noob, for being so interactive with us on YouTube. I can't begin to explain how much I enjoy reading the comments that are left. And again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the encouragement. Um, so yes, just thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
But yeah, I guess with that being said, do you want to kick off chapter 19 of Gardens of the Moon's epigraph here?
Sure. Let me. My cat just jumped up on the table here. Let me get her down so she's not walking over everything. Yeah.
Is there a pencil sharpener in your face?
No. She's just wandering around. All right. Here we go. But someone died here, alas. Who drinks of this now and then and stirs the ashes of thine own pyre? Maker of paths, you were never so thirsty in youth. That is our epigraph for chapter 19.
It was a little short guy.
Yeah.
That was
Kind
a
of like
cup.
this whole chapter. I mean, we do not have the notes on this chapter like we did the previous one. So, you still there?
Yep. Sorry, I thought you were just gonna go right into it. My bad.
Oh, sorry, I kind of cut you off.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, it's definitely a shorter chapter. I think all in all it was like about 11 pages or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere
But
around there, and kind of similar to the last chapter. You know, like using your words, it's a lot of transition. So
yeah.
this, I didn't have a lot of notes here. It doesn't look like you had a ton either, but we'll still have stuff to talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, well,
Cool.
we'll get going here with the first section. Crocus complains it is not right that they have to hide so long. Absalar says it is nearly dark. Mies says they move again at midnight. Iralta is getting the details in order. Crocus asks who is giving these orders and have they found his Uncle Mammoth yet. Mies says to take a chill pill, and no, they've not found him, and the orders come from his protectors, and don't even think about asking who they are. Absalar says Iralta has been gone for a while and asks Mies if she thinks something has happened. She replies she's not sure, and notes the girl is sharp. She heads out the trapdoor and tells them to stay put. She'll be mad if they do something stupid. She says to lock the door behind her and to wait for Iralta. When they're alone, Aspelar asks why Crocus killed the guard, and he says it was an accident and did not want to discuss it further. He also says he's uncomfortable with all these protectors. He says something else is up. There's more than just an order for his arrest. He knows the Thieves Guild could take care of that. That's why they get a 10% cut of all his jobs. Something did not add up. Absalar asks if they're leaving. He says, "You're goddamn right we are." And he's got a good hiding spot picked out. And once they're there, he can do anything he wants. Asplar asks what he wants to do, and he says he wants to talk to Chalice face to face. Absalar says she betrayed him, though. Crocus says not to worry about it, and asks if she's going with. She says, of course, she's going with him. I feel like I say the word
So,
asks oddly. Just me, I
what
guess.
do you mean by oddly?
I don't know. It just doesn't roll off my tongue well.
That's all good. Um, so how much of a dumbass is Crocus being right now?
A
I think
little
that
bit.
was like my big question. Like, do you think he's getting a little ahead of himself? Like, what? I don't even understand what's his urgency? I mean, I know that that's not terribly gone into by any means, but what the fuck is his urgency that he's just is? I feel like it's just because he doesn't like being there. He's like inconvenient, so he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna fucking leave now."
Well, I mean, I'm being penned up. It's probably been a couple days. Like that's gonna suck. And you're waiting for other people to tell you what to do. Like, yeah, probably not loving it.
True. I mean, it just seems like he's putting so much assurance into the Thieves Guild. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it does seem that way. Well, is like he's smart enough to know something doesn't add up. I don't know. I'm.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have like a real good lead or anything.
Yeah, there's really not much to go on, which I think is an interesting premise in itself because I mean, if you think about it, I mean, again, this is just kind of like one of those small, really minute things that makes me feel that it's a build up or a setup to something. Because you know it and also could be very well just as simply just a representative of who Crocus is as a character. I'm getting kind of like the impatient type vibes from him, but
Oh, for sure.
how much is that is Crocus versus Opon? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Again, it goes back to I just always assume that Opon has some type of hand in either Paran or Crocus because that is who we've come to know are tied to it.
I don't know. He's just Crocus. He's just kind of. I feel like he's a little polarizing sometimes. Like he definitely feels like a teenage kid, right? Like it seems like he knows better, but he's not acting that way, and it's a little frustrating sometimes.
You're right. You can see him walking towards this path of destruction, and he's just like, "Fuck you, I don't care."
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hmm. Maybe we should get him an iBone phone.
Uh, I forgot about. We forgot to mention that. I think already the bone phone.
The bone phone. We're mentioning it now. Yeah. I, from what I understand from one of our commenters on YouTube, that is something that apparently only appears in this book. Which I guess if that is a spoiler, I can just cut that out. But I don't. I don't see that doesn't reveal anything outside of it's never brought up again. But I think that you and I can maybe die on the hill of maybe taking that out to pasture and shooting
We'll get the guns out.
it. Right, right. We'll order them on our iBone phones.
Exactly.
But yeah, I guess the only other thing that like I can think of is um just the whole Mies making a comment that Apsalar is sharp, which is weird because like I guess the really only interaction that we have from this girl is is in the very first chapter when she's, prior to her possession. So I guess it's kind of nice to get maybe a little bit more character development from who this character is as a whole. And got to be honest, it's a little jarring to just. I feel like I'm still constantly reminding myself that like this is not sorry. This is not the ruthless maniac being possessed by the rope of Shadow Throne.
Right. It's just a kid, really.
Right. But she seems to have a level head, whereas Crocus doesn't.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
Do you think something happened to Relta? Or do you think she's maybe doing the horizontal mambo with somebody?
I don't think it's that, but yeah, I don't know. If I could see something bad happening, it wouldn't surprise me.
Gotcha. So
What about
more
you?
in lieu of yeah, I think something is oh, gotta sneeze. Come on. Get out. Oh wow, what an asshole. Oh, hate that.
Disappeared on you?
Yeah, yeah. Uh that's okay. Really have a ton of, I guess, things to add to those three things that we talked about already.
All right, I'm ready if you are.
Cool. Yeah, we can definitely move on.
Take it away there, sir.
Yay. The power of her warren bristled on her body. Syrah scanned the area, not sensing anything. Hearing the window's rusty hinges squeak, knowing that she was invisible, she peeks over the edge of the rooftop. Crocus's head peeks out, and he does a quick scan of the surrounding area, looking up but not seeing Syrah. It hadn't taken long for her to find him, and she could sense that the only person accompanying him was that of an innocent girl. The other two she could not sense, and therefore was nowhere near the boy. Crocus climbs through the window. A moment later, she strikes. Her charge met an invisible hand, driving into her chest, shoving her. Her invisibility and flight remained with her. Even as she rebounded off of a chimney, she drifted dazed and confused. So it had to have been Sirad that was giving Mies and Erelta and even Kalam the sense of feeling like they've been being watched.
Oh yeah.
Is Yeah, like from the previous chapter. I know that they had mentioned that a few times, and I know that we speculated a little bit that it would have been Syrah, but it or Searat here. It
Thank you.
seems like
Thank you.
that is the case. Yeah, you're welcome. Had to throw the Searat in there.
Appreciate it.
I try.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. That's who it was, though.
Right, yeah. Because she, based on this very small, short section, she had no trouble, locating Crocus. So my guess is that she's been watching them for a long time. And I know that like, timing and whatnot really isn't available here. As in like we don't really get a perception of time between these different sections, but I'm guessing that after she, wakes up from whoever knocked her in the back of the head, which I kind of feel like is more Opon at this point,
So you're
which
changing your
doesn't
mind?
make any sense. I think I am changing my mind. Yeah, I think that Opon is definitely taking a little bit more of a direct approach in protecting Crocus because I mean, unless it is Krupp or Rake, I mean they both have magical abilities. You know, I feel like Rake is probably the least. The least. I think it's either Opon or Krupp.
I just don't think
I think Krupp
there's
is
like motivation for Rig to do it.
right. I think so too.
But yeah,
But I
pretty
mean,
quick
how much of
section
that?
again. Just
Right.
more setup. Another perspective basically of what we just saw in the previous section, or at least the very end of it. Sarah Searad did not hear Crocus's conversation, but sees him leaving.
Right. Yeah. And then, I mean, as soon as she does, like, she's so determined to kill this coin bearer. And then as soon as she strikes, she's met with some fucking invisible force, pretty much like what I would assume is like knocking, the wind out of her. Like, how much does that have to suck? Like, two times, right? Like, you have just completely blindsided by something you don't or can't wrap your head around, you know? Like, I feel like it's one of those movies that just something bad happens to the main character that they don't quite understand, and they're just frustrated as fuck and probably sound crazy to everybody else who she may potentially explain her story to. Like, I feel like Rake is gonna be like, "Why haven't you killed this coin bearer yet?" And Sea Rat is all like, "Well, this invisible thing hit me in the back of the head and laid out my knives really nice next to me, and then when I went to go strike again, I got hit by something in the chest and pretty much rendered me unconscious."
She's just getting cock blocked.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
I think that's just the simplest way to put it.
I would agree. I like that simplicity there.
It's a
But
little crude, but it works.
yeah, this is true. But yeah, I mean, yeah, again, like you mentioned, very, very short section. Really, those are kind of the bigger things to take out of that. Unless, do you have anything to add to it?
I don't think so. No, there's not really much deep diving to be done there. Just kind of a setup piece.
Right. Right. Yep. Well, I guess that being said, you want to move on to your third section or your next section here?
Will do. On the edge of the roof, Crocus crouched with his daggers drawn. Absalar asked what was wrong. He says he felt a little nervous. He thought he felt a wind that looked like, well, nothing. There's nothing there. Absalar asked where the hiding place is. Crocus points to a location and says, right there, right under their noses.
So, I guess the only thing that really ties with the previous section is that, Crocus feels the wind that pretty much annihilates Sea Rat out of the sky. But I think it's funny that he just, okay, well, cool, whatever, like he just blows it off.
Yeah, and obviously we know that was Syrah, you know, and just kind of it's a little creepy, like thinking, it's just like that feeling you're being watched, and this time it turns out there's actually something there. I'm sure we all get that feeling, and man, if we knew that it was actually something else, it'd give a whole nother dimension to that feeling.
You're right. Yeah, I didn't even think of it from that perspective. Like, what if it's somebody like, having some type of invisibility that's just following Crocus around, I mean, that is fucking creepy in a very like personal way.
Yeah, yes, it is.
I don't recall, but I'm pretty confident that Crocus doesn't really have any understanding of Opon, does he? Like, versus Paran. Like, Paran understands that Opon has been using him, but I don't think that Crocus has that same realization. I'm correct, right?
I think so.
So it's not like Crocus has this type of, weird confidence that he'll be fine because he's got this magical god helping him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's just kind of, I mean, on his own, basically. I mean, as far as he knows, he thinks he's on his own.
Right. Yeah, he's got that feeling of like, yeah, I'm just going to be independent and take care of it.
Yeah, yeah, independence is a good way to put it.
Yeah. Um Another really quick section,
Yeah,
but
only a few sentences. I mean, I guess the only thing we didn't touch on is just with the location of this hiding spot, which I guess,
oh, did they reveal that in this section? I don't recall.
I mean, not by name or anything. He just pointed, and I guess when you read it, did you have any thoughts of where it was?
I mean, when I read it, I thought it was the Karul Tower. That seems to be, which I guess I find a little ironic, and I wasn't really going to mention it until later, but like right there, right under their noses, like he makes it seem like it's the least visited thing in the city, but I guess in our journey through this book, it seems to be a pretty popular destination.
It does, and I thought he was going to be. Well, I guess maybe I don't know if I want to say. I guess yeah, I thought he was going somewhere else because he said I thought he was going to go to the Darls because he wanted to talk to Chalice. So I thought he was going to be going back to like her room. That's where my brain led me.
Gotcha. Oh, was that in that section where he says he wants to talk to her?
Maybe it was in the previous segment. It might have been in my first section. I think
Oh,
it was. He said he
gotcha.
wanted to talk to Chalice face to face.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I thought
mean,
that's where he
that
was
makes
going.
sense. That makes sense. Yeah, but from what I understand, the D'Arl estate isn't too far from the Carul Tower. If I, go back to all those many episodes ago, I think it was like the third or fourth chapter, or the first or second chapter in the subbook of Jerujistan. I guess I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. I guess how close it was either.
But I didn't even take into consider the D'Arls. I just when I read that in that first section, I just thought eventually he would get to talk to Chalice. I didn't think that like he was going there right away.
I guess. Yeah, maybe I took it a little more literally. I guess.
I mean, I guess it's hard to say specifically where Erickson was trying to point his audience. I mean, that very well could have been the assumption that he wanted to point out or he wanted to make the association. So, which would make sense, right? Because that first section is very much like, yeah, no, I'm going to get the fuck out. I want to talk to Chalice.
Right.
And then they leave.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I don't have any final thoughts for that section.
Yeah, I think I covered all my thoughts. So if we're ready to move on, I think it's a fine idea.
Sweet. Relic is in his room, not sure if that's within the Phoenix Inn or not. He is getting anxious, letting his thoughts drift to the longer he waited, the more sure he would be that Ocelot had killed his friend Rallick. If Rallick had saved Call but couldn't perform his duties, Marilia vowed to attempt Rallick's role. Checking his rapier, he doubts his abilities in dueling, as Turbant Orr was the best in the city. His thoughts raced to the circle breaker and why the eel, whoever they were, why they would involve themselves in Rallick and Murillo's schemes. Could it be the fat little man? A scrape at the door caught his attention. He opens the door to see no one there, but when he looks down, he sees Rallick on the ground. All Rallick could say was that he was sorry he was late, as his legs had given out. Cursing, Murillo helps Rallick into the room and settles him on the bed. Before closing the door, Murillo checks the hallways. Rallick begins to explain the contract that Orr had put out. Murillo interrupts Rallick and tells him that he was aware of this and to let him take a look at Rallick's wound. Rallick says that first he needs his armor removed. Rallick then explains to Murillo that he bested Ocelot and for all he knows, Call is still alive. Helping Rallick remove his armor, Murillo explains that with all of Rallick's blood, that he won't be dueling Orr, and he will take care of that at the fete. Rallick tells Murillo that this is a stupid idea, as Murillo would get himself killed, and Orr would simply walk away, and Lady Simitel would still remove Call's claim to rights. Making no reply to this, he sees that the wound appears to be a week old. Rallick, surprised, feels the wound, and with a simple huh, he tells Murillo to get him a washcloth so he can remove all this rust from his face and body. Murillo's like, what the fuck? There isn't any dust to wash off. Testy, Rallick asks for a mirror. Murillo observes Rallick look at himself in the mirror and straightens himself up. He tells Rallick to rest as a lot of blood was lost and that Murillo is going to talk with the eel. Rallick asks Murillo if he knows who the eel is. Murillo simply says that he's got a hunch, and when he leaves, Rallick should lock the door behind him. So, What do you think we can conclude from this, Mr. Derek?
This is going to be different than probably what you're going for, but he shouldn't have put that magic shit on his face or all over him.
You don't think so?
No, because now he's like tripping out and got like meth mites thinking he's got shit on him.
I didn't take it that way at all,
Well,
but I see where you're coming from.
he thinks he's got all this like crap on him, and he like, dude, what are you talking about? Like you're seeing shit. Like, there's nothing there. Shouldn't have done that.
Or maybe the dust is some type of invisibility and hides what has actually happened. I'm just kidding. I don't think that at all.
I'm pretty sure he's seeing the side effects of why this was a bad idea.
Yeah, but I think that the rust has given him the ability to heal, is what I'm interpreting that as.
A more positive
But
side effect than seeing shit on you.
then your meth mites.
Right.
So that I mean, but I guess my only question is like, I guess I just always assume that I mean, it's told us the reader that the rust is capable of changes, but I guess I just always assumed that it was like like vanity change, like physical appearance type of, some type of ugliness or monsterness or whatever the case is. But kind of seems to me like the rust has given him the ability to heal. But is that a temporary thing or is that permanent? You know,
Yeah, that's a good question. And I guess I didn't, when they said it could give him like changes or whatever, change things, I didn't really know what to expect.
right? And I mean, but then again, I mean, Baruch probably doesn't know. I mean, it could be one of those things that is, it varies based on the individual, as far as like what changes take place when one rubs said rust on their skin, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and how much they put on, maybe that affects it too.
Well, I mean, from what I understand, he dumped the whole contents of the pouch on him and then rubbed it all over.
Right. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, if he put less on or something, maybe it wouldn't be as severe.
Maybe, yeah, yeah. I guess I feel like this rust thing, I hope gets explored more. Like, I hope that Baruch and Rallick get to have a conversation about what happened when he used the rust, but I guess I'm not banking on it.
Yeah, I don't, I guess hard to say.
But what about the other thing?
That Krupp is the eel.
Yes. Yes. Man, you called it all those episodes ago.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
far
feel
back.
pretty confident that that he's the and what you thought, if I recall correctly, was some asinine theory, then you ended up being correct
Well,
about.
I guess we don't have 100% confirmation yet. But yeah, it was just
True.
some wording that kind of, I don't want to say, I guess triggered at me to thinking that that might be the case.
I want to say it was like chapter 5, that specific wording. I remember what you were talking about. Wasn't it like when they met at the ruins with the ghosts and stuff? When Marillion and Rallick like went through that like welder's or blacksmith's tent and then went through some door in the back and then met to have like a conversation. That might have not have been chapter 5, but I feel like it was a single digit chapter that happened in.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. But yeah, it was just, I remember it was some wording, and it wasn't even like dialogue that was said to another. Well, maybe it was. I thought it was more of a description, but
I guess it could be, but I mean, you had me convinced, and I feel like so far so good. You know,
so far, I'm still pretty confident on that.
are you prepared at all for it to not be that way?
I'd be surprised, I guess, because I just like all the
Yeah.
other stuff that we've read, like, and even like this next section, like I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I share that. But I guess those were the only things that I had about this, and this section was pretty. I wouldn't intense is not a very good word to describe it, but more just kind of like intriguing. It's a very intriguing because I was kind of under the assumption that Rallick was stabbed and was potentially losing a lot of blood. So,
Well, he was.
and
I mean,
then
he got
to
his ass kicked too.
yeah, so it was just that payoff was just it wasn't what I was expecting it to be when Murillo's like trying to address the wound, and then it's appears to be a week old. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, the wound might be like kind of healed over and stuff, but I mean, you still gotta, I don't know, like regenerate. I guess the blood he lost. You know, body takes some time to do that.
that's true. That's true.
So I mean,
So maybe
yeah, he's not bleeding out or anything, but hasn't recouped his blood loss.
right. Which, I guess puts a little bit of a damper on their plan, right?
Right. Yeah.
So do you think Murillo is going to end up taking on Turban Ore?
That I'm not sure about. I, I just I still wonder what we're going to get in this last, 100 or so pages of this book because it just feels like there's so much going on. How could it possibly all be wrapped up?
True. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like, with 100 and some odd pages, you could probably accomplish that. I mean, I feel like these last two chapters especially have been like it's almost I associate it to kind of like you're thinking about something and it's on the tip of your tongue, like it's right on the verge of being discovered. I kind of feel that way about this section. Like something is just around the corner to being like, oh fuck, or you know what I mean? Like something is coming. Like all I feel is like anxious for these next chapters. One, because like I want to finish this book. Like I'm excited to finish it. And two, finding out what comes after these chapters, I feel like because if these chapters weren't here, I feel like whatever is coming is probably not going to be that big of a payoff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I guess, kind of a sprint to the finish here. It's going to be pretty fast and furious, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. It does also feel like that, where like things are being set up to kind of ramp up.
Yeah, oh, 100%.
But yeah, I guess that's all I wrote. I don't know if you have any follow up or additional thoughts about this section.
I do not.
All right, well, let's move her on out.
All right, section 5. Krupp wiped his sweaty ass forehead and says he's told every word of the story 1,000 times. A whole day wasted, Master Baruch. In truth, Baruch kind of had forgot Krupp was still there and still talking. Krupp keeps whining and asks if he can leave. He's not recovered from his horrific journey, and he's only eaten simple fare, which honestly sounds like he had a goddamn feast. Um, yeah, he had like I think it's like roast quail and like all this other stuff. Like, dude, you had Thanksgiving dinner. Shut up.
Right. He needs two of them.
Yeah. Baruch spoke and said, for more than a year, an agent of the eel named Circle Breaker had been feeding him information about the city council. Krupp froze up instantly. Baruch says he could have the true identity of Circle Breaker if he really wanted to, and he is considering doing it. He needs to speak to Eel. He needs to know his purpose and try to form an alliance and maybe even save the city. Krupp says if he wishes to relay a message, he could be the vessel for it. Baruch asks how quickly he could get a reply, and Krupp says he could have it this evening. Baruch is pleased with this and says it's a better option than outing Circle Breaker. Krupp says he will return tonight. This just how nervous he is right now, and he freezes up at the mention of the eel. Like I don't see how there's any way that it's not him.
Right. Well, and I mean, don't get me wrong, and I know that I've pointed this out in previous sections, but is it just me? But is Krupp only sweaty and wiping his forehead with his little handkerchief only when he's talking to Baruch?
I think that's the only time we've seen it.
I mean, like, I know he'll casually do it, but I feel like sweaty and like, yeah, you're definitely picking up like nervous type vibes from Krupp, which again, like I would 100% agree with you that this is kind of what is making you allude to the fact that he is the eel. And on top of it, he's willing to like go deliver this message to the eel,
Yeah, which really
which
he's not
is
going
really
anywhere. He's just gonna kill some time. He's gonna go.
he's gonna go stuff his
Yeah,
face.
he's gonna go get some fucking Burger King.
Right, right. Krupp King.
Yes.
Do you feel like Baruch is a little bit distracted in this section? I feel like he's kind of distracted,
Yeah, he seems
like,
aloof.
which makes me kind of wonder, like, what is he really thinking about? Is he kind of going back to all of his conversations with Rake, or you know, yeah, I guess. But also, is this potentially maybe manipulation on Baruch's part? Do you think that like he kind of already knows that Krupp is maybe the eel, and he's maybe just trying to get a reaction out of him by saying that he could easily find out Circle Breaker's identity?
I mean, it's possible.
You
Yeah, he could
know,
just be toying with him.
I can see Baruch doing that.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick like that.
Yeah, Dirk.
I am kind of curious the actual identity of Circle Breaker, though. Like, is it somebody we know? Because I haven't really picked up on any hints on who that could actually be.
No, I haven't. I haven't. I mean, the only thing we really know about him is that he's a guard, a soldier of some kind. But I think that that's just a facade. I don't think that, like, that's what he's super interested in or passionate about doing
Yeah,
at, Despot's Barbican. I think it just allows him to, keep an eye on things, really.
yeah, I'd agree with you. I don't think I've really got anything else on this. I mean, again, really just kind of straightforward. We're playing a little kind of a game of cat and mouse here with the eel's identity, and yeah, I think we kind of covered everything.
I think so as well. I don't have anything else to say.
All right, well, let's move on.
All right. Call slept while the men in the room continued their discussion. Paran felt frustrated as something was missing from Whiskey Jack's explanation. Whiskey Jack still had plans to detonate the mines. Still, the purpose of contacting the Assassin's Guild to offer a contract to Jerujistan's rulers, these things hardly complemented the idea of a full-scale continental or continent-wide revolt. Wouldn't Dujek be seeking alliances within Jerujistan? Paran sat in silence, thinking about everything that Whiskey Jack had said. Paran finally breaks the silence and relays to Whiskey Jack his thoughts about Whiskey Jack's intent to cripple Jerujistan. Paran goes on explaining that Dujek and his 10,000 soldiers are about to become outlaws of the Empire, and they'll need a place to stay. And that's the reason for creating chaos in the streets. A city with a headless government. Dujek knows that Pale's days are numbered, with Caladan brood marching down the Rivi Plain and the Moranth about to pull their allegiance. Cockily, Paran asks Whiskey Jack how he's doing so far. Glancing at Kalam, Whiskey Jack tells Paran to continue. Paran does, continuing by saying that Jerujistan is full of panic, and in marches Dujek with the rebel army at his heels and sets things right. Dujek becomes wealthy due to the success, which he'll need if he's to combat what the Empress sends after him. Proud of himself, Paran leans back. Whiskey Jack simply says, not bad. However, there's one thing missing. That should hopefully relieve Captain Paran of his sense of betrayal and potentially his outrage. Whiskey Jack admits that he doesn't give a damn what the Empress wants to send at them. Adding to this, he explains that she won't have much to do it with because the Seven Cities is close to reclaiming its independence. No, there is something much worse in the south, and it's not just Jenna Bacchus that is in trouble. It's the fucking world. Ending his explanation by saying a fight is coming, and that is why they need Jarujistan. Skeptically, Paran asks what is in the south. It was Kalam who that answered Paran's question. The Penian seer has proclaimed a holy war, and the genocide has begun. Whiskey Jack rose to his feet, telling Kalam to explain it to Paran, but before departing tells Paran that Ajak Lorne should probably not know that Paran is still alive, and asks him to stay put until he gets back. Paran acknowledges by nodding, and Whiskey Jack calls Mallet and they leave.
A little bit longer section, but still just, again, a lot of setup.
Right. And I mean, I feel like some puzzle pieces are starting to come into to question. Like I know that throughout the book, a lot of these characters have kind of like almost questioned Dujak's allegiances, so to speak. And it kind of sounds like this whole time Whiskey Jack and Dujek have had a plan that are, not in the interests of the Empress,
Right.
but still a little bit related because Paran is like, this is this is similar to what Empress Lucine is probably wanting to do. She wants to conquer Darujistan. What's the difference between what you want to do and what she wants to do? So it's kind of like I think he's calling out Whiskey Jack's like hypocrisy a little bit
Yeah, he kind of is, isn't he? I never really thought of it that way.
because he doesn't understand why going after offering a contract to the Assassins Guild to essentially assassinate Jerusalem's rulers has anything to do with a full scale continental wide revolt. But that's because it's more than just that. Dujek and Whiskey Jack are essentially planning on making sure that they have a home for their soldiers and like a base, so to speak.
Which, I mean, and how you kind of wonder, like, how is that a bad thing? Like, you're trying to take care of your guys. Like, the old saying, war is hell. And these guys kind of, I've seen a lot of it, right?
Right, right. But also, I mean, the Panian Seer comes back into mention again. And I feel like Haran already was told that based on the last chapter, but we get just a tiny, incy, weensy, teeny bit more about the Panian Seer and that some type of holy war or some type of genocide of some, I would assume, particular group of people. So,
Well, we kind of know from our own world that holy wars usually are pretty nasty things.
right. Yep. Because, if you don't believe in this one particular religion, I have no idea what the context would be in this particular state or this book. What I guess religion or Warren the Panians here is wanting everybody to like bow down and be pious to. Yeah, I don't see things working out well, and I'm wondering where like there's Lorne, there's Tool, there's Whiskey Jack and Co, there's Paran, there's Crocus and Co, there's the Jag Hut, there's this Panny and Seer. Like, how does this all kind of come together? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, this painting here really just it keeps throwing me for a loop because it just seems so late to be throwing that into the mix.
Right, which I think is adding to like the mystery of whoever this character is. For me at least, like kind of almost makes it a little bit more foreboding.
Oh yeah. I mean, they just keep saying how nasty he is or she is. I guess. Did they say if it's a guy or a girl? I don't remember.
I don't think that the gender has not been assigned to this character from what I recall.
So yeah, I don't know, but they're supposed to be a nasty one. So that's about all we know is they're
Yeah,
just ruthless.
right. And, Whiskey Jack is making it seem that it's totally plausible to focus their attention on this Penny and Seer because the Seven Cities is close to reclaiming its independence. I'm assuming that means from the Malazan Empire. which means that Empress Lucine is going to have to do something about that. You know what I mean? Like she can't just, oh well, whatever. I'm gonna go chase these people now.
Right. You'd chase them forever.
Right? They seem like a sneaky bunch.
You sneaky sons of bitches.
Right. So yeah.
Well, what other thoughts did you have?
Um, I feel like that was all I had, and I can't think of anything else that I can think of. I feel like Paran has just kind of been in this mood, uh, with Opon and then being frustrated at Whiskey Jack's plan. I don't think that he doesn't seem like he's kind of calmed down at all. I think would be one of the last things that I would add. I can't really think of anything else that I have for this particular section that is standing out to me.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else that sticks out for me either.
No, it's again, it just all of it feels like setup to something. Like everything that I read feels like setup. So I feel like the information is just like very quick, very like paced, um, to be kind of like fired at rapid succession. But
Just keeps coming.
right, right. But yeah, I guess with that, I mean, I think that we could probably move on to the next section.
All right, this will be my last section here. Lauren says they've lost 2 days and that they have thirsty horses. Tool asks how her wound is, and Lauren says it is healing and mostly healed. Tool says his task is complete. If she wishes to join him after she completes her mission, he will be here for the next 10 days. He wants to see the tyrant. It will not see him, and he will not interfere with it. He wishes her success. Lauren addresses him by his proper name and wishes him well on his search. Tool says that name is done, and his name is now Tool. She rode off, thinking about her plan. Once the Finnist was out of her hands, she'd find the coin bear. She had not thought about Open. Sorry was more pressing in her mind. She felt regret that Paran was gone. He would have made the job much easier, and she admitted to herself that she was attracted to him and that there may have been something there. She thought to herself, though, that dying was never in anyone's plans. I mean, that's pretty true. The estimation was that the Jaghut would be fully awake and free in 2 days, so the Finnist would have to be in place before then. She thought about meeting Sorry and the joy it would bring the Empress when she killed her, perhaps even killing the rope. She knew what the mission was, and that removed all doubts she had and took the weight off her shoulders. Something I probably didn't do a real good job of summarizing here is just Lauren kind of having her inner dialogue, battling herself here, having these feelings of regret that popped up before and she buried them down. Well, now they're coming up again, and um, she's a pretty cold, hard person. That doesn't get these types of feelings, but they still keep coming up or are coming up more frequently. So I think there's something to that. That she has to keep pushing them down.
Right. Yeah. I think she's still just kind of torn. I mean, and it all it's, I mean, it's all Tool's fault, really, because he just unleashed all this information about, his people, so to speak, and it sounds awfully similar to the human race. So,
Just kind of trying to climb to the top.
um, right, exactly. I think the only other thing that I found really interesting, and it's probably a small, subtle little way because, like, at this point in the story, it's no surprise that Cotillion the rope was possessing Sorry. Like that's been, you know, revealed in many different fashions. But in Lauren's perspective, she knew all along.
Right. Yeah,
Like
she did.
this kind of goes back. Yeah, and she was just using Paran to essentially make contact with Sari so that she would have a way of finding Sari because there was some type of link between her and Captain Paran. So it's just kind of funny that like all these like really small details, you're like, oh, okay, well, Lauren and Paran have some type of link. Well, when the fuck did that happen? You know what I mean? And not that that's a huge deal that we don't know when that happens, or the fact that it wasn't even explained is fine because it served its purposes for what it was. But I think it's kind of cool that it kind of comes back around that from the whole beginning of the book she knew who she was chasing. Paran, not really that much, but you know kind of picked up on along the way.
I don't think I've really
So
got anything to add to your words, buddy.
do you what I mean, I guess my only other question for this section is, as far as the Finnist goes, what is it that she's going to plan? Because from what I understand, is the Jaghut is going to be looking for this thing, like a man looking for a condom about ready to have sex. You know,
Interesting.
right? I mean, when you're in the moment and you can't find one, like you're scrambling, you're looking for one.
Or you're just taking a chance, I guess.
No, I guess those are the only things. It's just like I don't know. I know that she's got a plan to do something with the Finis, but like, is she? I'm assuming she's using it as bait of some kind.
Yeah. I mean, I assume she's going to plant it in the city. To me, the most interesting thing is like Tool wanting to watch this. He's just going to like chill out and fucking camp it out and watch like the destruction happen.
Yeah, I guess he's just gonna watch it burn with popcorn. Maybe he'll make some s'mores while he does it.
Maybe he'll sing a couple songs. Is
Right,
my
some
aliens reference.
kumbaya. There we go. But yeah, I guess if you don't have any other thoughts on this section, I think we're ready to end our read our last section here.
Yep, take it away. Bring us home.
All right. Crocus and Apsalar reach the abandoned tower. Apsalar has some reservations as her father had told her that ghosts hang out in places like this. Crocus sighs and explains to Apsalar that the god Karul has been dead for thousands of years and no one comes to this tower. Crocus walks to the foot of the spiral staircase and urges Apsalar to follow, as he says the view is worth it. They both ascend the stairs. It should have been pitch black, but for some reason Apsalar was able to discern the smallest details. She is able to see paintings on the wall and tells Crocus that there are stories on these walls. Crocus, in disbelief, tells Apsalar not to be silly, as she couldn't be able to see her hand in front of her face in here. Again, urging her to follow, as the clouds they saw on the street should have parted and the moon should be visible from the tower. Apsalar felt some wetness and mentioned this to Crocus. Crocus shrugs this off as runoff from the top of the tower. Apsalar doesn't think so, as the wetness is thick and sticky. Crocus tells her to be quiet as they approach the platform at the top. Noticing something on the floor, he stops to tell Apsalar that someone has been camping up here. Stifling a gasp, Apsalar sees that it's the body of a dead man. Crouching beside the figure, he observes that this body has been stabbed in the head. Crocus also finds a crossbow. Grunting, he explains that he saw another assassin get killed here last week, and explains to Apsalar that there is an assassin's war going on, just like he told Krupp and Murillo. Out of nowhere, Apsalar tells Crocus to look at the moon. Crocus rises from the floor and asks which one. Apsalar responds with the shiny one. Crocus gazes at Moonspawn and the reddish mist/glow emanating from it. He could have sworn he saw 5 winged creatures emerge from it and swept their way north. As he blinked, they were gone. Apsalar, with another spout of randomness, asks Crocus if he sees the oceans there. Bacchus is like, "You high, bitch?" Apsalar explains about the Lord of the Deep Waters, Graelin, and how someday he'll come down and gather his people to join him in his world. These people would be happy swimming with dolphins, and there won't be wars anymore. Apsalar gets giddy at this and asks Crocus if wouldn't it be wonderful? He simply says, of course, why not? Then the question repeated in his head for a different reason. We all know that this is Ocelot's body,
Yeah.
but that also brings me back to my next question is Crocus just seems full of shit. I mean, he admits to Apsalar that he just saw an assassin get killed there the other week. So now this is like two deaths. But even if you saw somebody get killed there a week ago, why the fuck would you go back there?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense.
Like, I'm assuming that Crocus is in this series for the long haul. I have no way of confirming that. That's just my suspicions. But I guess I go back and relate to some other fantasy books that I've read where, you have a lot of like young, very not really adapt to the world yet type characters. And then by the end of that book or those series, you kind of have a newfound respect because there's definitely a legitimate. I guess I go back to like, you've seen Breaking Bad, right?
Yes, loved it.
Yeah. Just kind of like Heisenberg's or Walter White's character arc. Like he's a completely different person than he was at the very beginning of the show. Like I feel like that's probably what will happen to Crocus. So while I'm not really a big fan of like his impotence and not impotence, but you know what I mean, like his inability to make smart decisions and his kind of like whiny, pissy attitude.
Yeah, I can see that. He almost, I don't know if he almost feels a little more like Jesse Pinkman to me.
Yeah,
Maybe not
yeah,
not quite as wild, but just like you said, he doesn't think things through and just poor decision making.
yeah. Right. Exactly. Um, the only other thing that I have, and I think it was kind of ironic that we had just kind of talked about, the book titles in each of how we haven't heard anything about like Gardens of the Moon so far. But this Graylin, uh, Lord of the Deep Waters on Moonspawn, apparently he tends to underwater gardens.
Good catch.
So I wonder, or maybe they might not be underwater gardens, but just gardens. I know that Apsar said something about gardens, and I didn't catch it. I didn't catch it until like way after I wrote this summary, so that's why that particular statement's not there. But I'm wondering if maybe for whatever reason, uh, Graylin has something to do with the end of this book here. You know, I don't know, but
You don't think he could
I guess
be the Panian Seer, do you?
I mean, everybody is, saying that there's somebody south, but I guess I don't really recall where Moonspawn is hovering, you know. If they are south of Jerusalem, I thought they were north, but I guess I don't recall. But yeah, it very well could be, you know. Very well could be.
I think it's a long shot, but it just kind of popped into my head as a thought.
Right. I mean, there's so many things people being introduced, and a lot more questions being opened up within these last two or three chapters here. So, but this is the last of the sub book, uh, the City of Blue Flames
Yeah,
or Fire or whatever it is.
we will be moving on.
So we'll be moving on to the last sub book, and then we are done.
We 1/10 of the way through this series.
Yes, 1/10, 10%. Ooh. It's weird to think about, just the thought of potentially being done with this within the next month.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, that is true. I'm looking forward to our episode after we finish the book.
Our little wrap up, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, we could call it a wrap up. Our epilogue, so to speak.
Something.
Yeah. I think that'll be a fun episode.
I think so too. Should be a good time.
Yeah. Should be a very good time. But yeah, I guess outside of that, I got nothing else to add to this section or this chapter. What about you, sir?
I think just like the information we get on this like other god was pretty interesting. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess beyond that, there wasn't a ton that I would add either.
All right. Well, um, I guess yeah. I guess we could probably just say goodbye.
Goodbye until next time here.
Yeah, goodbye until next time.
Well, have a good night there, buddy.
Yeah, take her easy. You do the same.
Will do.
Later, man.
See ya.